Oh, right. Yeah. I'm doing this video because something really weird happened today. This I it's weird. Basically, today for some reason I was thinking, what is that thing? Dunning-Kruger effect. But I was honestly thinking it was like because I've been listening to a lot of paranormal and kind of not necessarily conspiracy, but kind of yeah, weird paranormal podcasts. Even when I'm asleep, they're playing. So it's not like really bizarre. They could have said it on that, and it's just got into my head through that. I had heard of it, but then Audio Garden again. I know the name because it's Audio Slave and Soundgarden. They wrote a comment on a video and said in like literally because I was thinking, is it the Dunning-Kruger? For some reason, that was just in my head. I was thinking, what is that? Like, it's like I kind of plucked it out of nowhere. And then, yeah, like I say, Audio Garden commented and said it's the it said like a comment, and then in the comment said it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I was like, that's weird. That's weird that I was thinking about that today and do you know what I mean? It's not something like the Mandela effect or something like that. But that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, why do I know what is the it literally just popped into my head. I even tell you I was in the bath and it just popped the Dunning, but I was thinking the Dunny. And then yeah, it really freaked me out. I actually I can't even explain how weird it was. Like this probably doesn't make sense at all, but it was really weird for me. That someone had commented that on a day that I just randomly was thinking about it. Really weird. Like it honestly spooked me. I tried to write them back and say like tried to explain it, but I can't even. It don't even make sense to me now. But yeah, basically I was thinking about it and then saw it on a comment. There's so much like because I don't see every comment either. The chances that I saw that comment whilst thinking about it earlier, it's weird. It was weird. But I thought, well, I've got to do a video on it, really. So yeah, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Let's go. That's a good point. That's
We've
true.
all experienced it. You're sitting around at the table for a family dinner. Across the table from you is that cousin you haven't seen since the last family get-together. In the most confident fashion, he opens his mouth and starts talking passionately on a subject he clearly knows very little about. You look down at your phone, and in one quick Google search, you find out everything he's saying is completely wrong. But he doesn't seem to know it. Everyone else at the table doesn't seem to know it either. His confidence is so strong and unwavering that you start to wonder, does this guy know how wrong he really is? This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. People who know very little about a subject tend to overestimate how much they know because they just don't know how much they don't know. As a result, the people who are most confident in their ability are not usually the ones who should be. The term Dunning-Kruger is named after the two scientists who first discovered this psychological phenomenon, David Dunning and Justin Kruger. In 1999, they carried out research titled Unskilled and Unaware of It, where they tested a group of people on grammar, humor, and logic. In the first experiment, the 65 participants were asked to rate jokes they thought people would find funny. The people who personally felt they were excellent judges of humor were the ones who did the worst on the test. Dunning and Kruger then put the same participants through varying degrees of grammar and logic tests, and the results always came out the same. For the most part, the people who scored the least were the most confident going into the test, and overestimated how well they did afterwards, while those who scored the most overestimated how well everyone else did. Now you might think, how does this really happen? Surely you should just know when you fail a test, right? You have that gut feeling, and after all, you're the one who wrote it yourself. But that only happens when you know nothing about the subject at all. When we learn just a little bit about that subject, we start overestimating how much we actually know. We are aware that we know about the subject, however, we don't know enough to know that there is still so much more to learn. We are not yet skilled enough to accurately assess our knowledge and ability.
This doesn't just apply as well to this applies universally to things. Like, for example, the people that go on the X Factors and what have you, and they're awful. But yet, there's a genius sat in their bedroom that thinks no one's going to like what they do. Do you know what I mean? But then you get these kind of... So yeah, it applies across literally everything. Hello, Nala.
So we think we know much more than we actually do.
Come on in.
Imagine you're given a test about the culture of extraterrestrial life. You just watched a 30-minute YouTube documentary and you're feeling pretty good about your knowledge of things that haven't been proven to exist. But apart from this documentary, you haven't done any other research about extraterrestrial life. You haven't been to space, and you certainly don't have any alien friends. You're handed the test, and in it, you're asked to answer 20 questions about life as an extraterrestrial. I know what you're thinking. You're not entirely ignorant. You just watched a 30-minute documentary about aliens, so you'll certainly ace this test. Or at least do better than the average. Right. Well, that is the Dunning-Kruger effect at work. Because the truth is, just one documentary is not nearly enough. You've only just discovered the tip of the iceberg, but because you don't know how big the ice under the water is, you'll keep living in the illusion that you've explored all of it. And we see this every day. From your cousin sitting across the...
That's what stopped me looking into conspiracies and stuff as well. Is because you watch one, like what he said, you watch one thing, but then you're like, right, and you watch another thing. But some things in that contradict what's said in that. And then you watch another thing, and so that contradicts everything said in that. And then you have the official thing that everything contradicts that, but that contradicts, and it is like, it becomes like, unless you're going to actually dedicate your life, like, I settled on the fact that there's a hell of a lot of things that are conspiracies in the world. And like now I just kind of go, I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, but like once you really start digging into anything, but it, like I say, it goes on anything. You pick up a guitar, you learn a few chords, you think you can play a guitar, then you learn a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and then this thing really, you realize, oh my God, I don't actually know anything. Like, yeah.
To that one coworker that gets really annoyed with someone else because the promotion they feel they so desperately deserve. Performance reports at work give us an unbiased view on how well we've done. However, when people who truly don't know all that much get these results, they aren't satisfied with it. Because in their minds, they've done a lot better than what the report says, so they make up excuses like, the boss didn't like me, or look down on the coworker that got the promotion over them, not stopping for once to think that maybe they still have a lot to learn. All the engineers in a company were once asked to rate their work and determine how well they were doing compared to the rest of their colleagues. 42% of the engineers believed that they were among the top 5% in the company. In another scenario, professors were asked whether they did average, below average, or above average work. 94% of all the professors in the survey believed that they do above average work, a figure that defies mathematical plausibility. You would think that professors who are always grading people would be able to come up with a more accurate self-assessment. But the reality is, we are all victims of the Dunning-Kruger effect, both as professor and student. Some scientists argue that the Dunning-Kruger effect might not be because of poor self-assessment, but rather just the poor performers wanting to paint a fluffed-up report of their performance. And while you can get where this argument is coming from, it doesn't make sense, because there are a lot of places where we observe the Dunning-Kruger effect even when there's no reason for the person to want to look good. The truth is, we can't give an accurate judgment of skills we know only very little about, because we simply don't know what is good and what is not. We haven't seen both ends of the spectrum.
Mm.
Metacognition is the awareness of your own thought processes. It's being able to plan, monitor, and access your own performance and understanding. It's like your brain's way of grading itself. In their research, Dunning-Kruger discovered that the less people know about a subject, the lesser their metacognitive ability around that subject. This is what makes them unaware of their own incompetence. And this is a very strange thing, because it means that oftentimes, the loudest person in the room is usually the one who knows the least.
Loudest person is the weakest.
Bertrand Russell said this in 1951, and it still rings true today.
But one of the painful things about our time is that those who feel certainty are stupid, and those with any imagination and understanding are filled with doubt. And that's so true. It's so true. And Nick Cave, in that book, he puts it in a great way where he says, he's talking about religion. He says religion is just spirituality but with vigor. Oh, that's a great quote. But another thing he says is, the more certain someone is of their belief, the less I can take them seriously, because they've stopped questioning. And it is so true. Like I said earlier, you see it with these people that go on X Factor and they're hopeless. And then, like I say, you'll get some real talent who's actually, do you know what I mean, too unsure of themselves to even go and do a karaoke, let alone get up and actually perform properly. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Let's go.
Even now more than ever. Because although he thought it was just a thing of his time, it wasn't. It was simply the Dunning-Kruger effect at work. The sad thing is that people who know the least are also the people who are least likely to take up a learning opportunity. Think about the 42% of engineers who believe that they were in the top 5%. They'll most likely ignore any opportunities to learn from their colleagues, because they already believe that they're the best. On the other hand, the people who are the best don't realize that they're so special, so they don't try to teach others, even when they're the ones that should be doing that.
That's something as well my dad taught, well, I say taught me, but told me about playing guitar. That even if he's like, play with anybody that wants to play and wants to jam. He's like, even if you think you're better and maybe you are better than them, but they might know one thing that you don't know, and then it's worth it, right? Yeah.
In the end, the company remains stagnant. Life is very much like this company. Go on the internet today, and the loudest voices are the ones who know the least. Everywhere you turn, there's a fake guru trying to teach you how to become a billionaire overnight. They have very little knowledge, but that doesn't stop them from selling $1,000 courses with the same basic information that you can get just by Googling the right things. The sad thing is that most people buy into their confidence and certainty only to realize too late that it was all bravado and no substance. Now more than ever, misinformation is a bigger problem than ignorance. People briefly glance through a topic and they instantly want to start teaching others. They don't take their time to actually read past the first page of the instruction manual before screaming at the rooftops about how much they know. Or how much they think they know. So, more often than not, we're listening to the most confident people and not the most reputable. We accept information from the person who speaks the loudest, rather than the person who is the most knowledgeable. From 5G death...
Again, there's something that Jordan Peterson, I remember him saying about people that come and protest. And like people was just going into his whatever lectures and like blowing air horns and just shouting things like over the top of him. And he's like, but none of them would actually come up and debate me. He's like, because they're strong in a crowd, but they don't really know what they're protesting for. And he's like, if you actually pulled them out and actually tried, he's like, you'll realize none of them have even got an ideology. They're just doing it because that's just what they're gonna do. Yeah, yeah, it's true. And Jordan Peterson also said that he combated that by the people that protested it. He stopped people protesting him. He's like, because now I just hold my things in the morning. He's like, none of them get out of bed till about 12. He's like, since I've changed to mornings, he's like, I've not been protested once. He's like, so it shows you how much they're really motivated to come and protest me. He's like, they can't even be bothered to get up at 8. Right. He's like, and I knew that would work. Jordan Peterson is very, very smart man.
Scares to anti-vax campaigns, people are constantly satisfied with knowing the bare minimum. Not only are they satisfied, they are confident that they know it all, and they waste no time in sharing that information with others. If the loudest voices are ignorant, why aren't the knowledgeable speaking up? Again, it's the Dunning-Kruger effect. When the 65 participants were given the 3 tests by Dunning-Kruger, the people who scored the best often knew they did pretty well on the test. However, they felt everyone else did too. They overestimated the scores of the other people in the test and didn't think anything special of their own results. When asked to place themselves in a percentile, more often than not, the people who did the best placed themselves lower than they actually were. Because of this, the people who have any imagination and understanding are filled with doubt and indecision. The people who are most knowledgeable don't realize that they are, so they find it difficult to speak up. It's easy for us to think that because something comes...
And again, I'm going to apply this to the music world, but if you listen to Chris Cornell's book, it's mind-blowing how insecure he actually was about his music. And how, like say, the Temple of the Dog album, which to me is one of the greatest albums of all time. But he was actually, like, worried about and kind of felt it was a bit of a cheek of him to even write something to offer to the band, like, to play. And obviously they heard it and fell in love with it and was like, yeah, 100%, that's great. But it shows you that, like, but that is also what makes you, again, Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, when he had cuss, he's like, I'd knock someone out in 20 seconds. I'd walk back to the changing rooms. He said, and on my way back, everyone would be saying, great fight, champ. You're the best. No one can beat you. You're perfect. You're the man. He said, and then that door would shut on the locker room. He said, and Cuss would go, you didn't move your feet right. You let your guard down here. He's like, even though I knocked him out in 20 seconds, he's like, he still was like, you did this wrong. You moved wrong. You wasn't looking when you threw that. Like, and you need that. Like, if you're always, it's only going to make you better the less, like, sure you are of yourself. Again, as well, back to music. But it goes the same with performing. If you get up on stage and it doesn't bother you, then you shouldn't be up there, because your nervousness will make you play better, even though you might feel like it's hindering you. That's the edge that you actually need to be the best, is that little bit of, like, nerve, basically nerve.
Easily and naturally to us, it does to others as well. It's easy to think that we're not special and that everyone can do as well as we've done. But in reality, that's not true. In fact, if you think your work is not good enough, then it's already probably better than most. Because unlike the people at the bottom of the percentile, you know what you don't know, so you are more willing to improve. The Dunning-Kruger effect is not entirely a bad thing. In fact, it's the reason most of us can take a leap of faith. I started this channel without knowing how difficult running a YouTube channel is, how badly an algorithm can beat you down, how the numbers on the screen affect the value you place on your work. I didn't know all of that at first, All I knew was to make a video and upload it. I feel like if I had known how difficult it would be in the long run, I might have never even started. So, in a way, the Dunning-Kruger effect helps us to make the first move without worrying too much about everything we don't know yet. It gives us the confidence to start. Once we take that first step, though, it's up to us to not get comfortable and confident in the little that we know. We must fight the cognitive biases and realize that we've only scratched the surface and there's still a long way to go. We're often taught not to compare ourselves with others, and most of the time, that's excellent advice. Constantly pitting yourself against others can leave you unhappy and unmotivated. But the truth is, comparison isn't always a bad thing. When we compare ourselves with others, we're able to better assess how well we're doing. Think about the participants of Dunning-Kruger's experiment. If the people who had scored the lowest were shown the scores of all the participants afterward, they would have been able to understand that they weren't as knowledgeable as they thought they were. If you're very confident about how much you know, pause for a minute. Take your time before sharing that information with others. Question your long-standing views and opinions, because there might just be new information that has come to light to disprove what you hold so dearly to your heart. Be open to feedback and criticism. While it's true that people shouldn't discourage your dreams, you need to understand that sometimes you may be overestimating your skills. So take the criticism and consider it carefully. If you do, you're most likely going to learn a thing or two that you didn't already know. When you're fully aware of the metacognitive bias that is the Dunning-Kruger effect, you'll know when to ask for objective criticism and feedback, and when to trust your own abilities and realize that you might just be special after all. Don't be satisfied with the little knowledge you have. Keep improving. Continue learning. Always ask questions, and be curious. Your curiosity will be rewarded, whether you realize it or not. Today's video was sponsored by Keeps, one of the best solutions out there to help keep your hair. Did you know that online, you'll be helping yourself and might.
Yeah, it's also like the saying, what's it? He who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know. Is it? Yeah. There's something. Oh yeah, keep improving. I was just gonna say as well. I saw this is what I mean. This really does apply universally. It really does. Like I saw a thing and it was plants in the sea or underwater. How it's hard to tell whether they how do you know if they're alive or if they're not dead? Like, and yeah, it's hard to tell if they're moving in the water anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to tell whether they're alive or not. But the way scientists determine whether a underwater plant is still alive or not is growth. That reduced thing, that is the clearest sign of life. That is the sign that the clearest sign of something is alive is growing. Which is pretty fascinating when you think about it. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean physically with humans, because yeah, you're only ever going to be so big. But spiritually, intelligence wise, yeah, all of it is growth. Didn't Muhammad Ali say that as well? That a man who thinks the same at 60 as he did at 20 has wasted 40 years of his life. And to be honest, I have completely changed to like, I was that. To be honest, I wasn't quite fully to the woke, but I was nearly there. But not like, but I was a justice for all until I realised that really everyone has got the same, like, do you know what I mean, rights and things, and it's so true. You learn a bit. Well, another saying is, um, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. Another great quote because it's so true. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this. This was great. Like I say, it's one of them universal things. Universal, timeless. Yeah, it's so true. It's so true in so many different ways. Even con men. The reason con men are so good is because they're confident enough and people just go with it. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, that's the reaction.